think I can make a prediction, and I will bet anything it comes true. On Thursday, when the rapture hasn't come, what that pastor is not gonna do is make a video where he's like, oh man, I biffed it. That was terrible. It turns out I actually don't know what I'm talking about. Never listen to me again. Never send me any money. It turns out I'm not actually seeing God. I guarantee you that's not gonna happen, okay? They're gonna do what they always do. Everybody showed so much faith that God decided to push it back another couple years. There's gonna be some sort of excuse, I guarantee it. And if you don't think so, and if you think that I'm being mean or whatever, send me your money, okay? You're not gonna need it soon, and I could sure use it. As I was saying earlier, solar's very expensive, but anyway, I think everyone's gonna be okay. Not politically, we're all doomed, but in terms of the rapture, I don't think it's gonna happen this week. Anyway, JR, thank you as always for being here. Much appreciated. Thank you. Everybody go check out the watch list and the watch party. And for the rest of you, Viviana Vigil is gonna be back on the show tomorrow, which is always a lot of fun. So join us then. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
That theme music never gets old. I love it. Sharon Reed, in for Dr. Richie today. This is indisputable. And one of our favorite people, you love her, I love her. Who doesn't love her? Okay. Yasmin Aliya Khan is here. We love your Rebel HQ. We love your podcast. We love everything that you bring to the table, your thoughtful analysis. So we haven't been together in a little while. I mean, we've done the same show, but perhaps not been, opposite each other.
Right.
So I love it. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be here with you, Sharon. Yeah, like we'll be on the main show, but on different panels. So like I feel like we always just miss each other, which is really sad because I love doing shows with you.
It's sad. I feel like I wish I lived next door to you in
That would
Texas.
be, we would be great neighbors. I'm a
I
great
think
neighbor.
so.
Yeah.
But you might get sick of me always coming over to borrow things. My daughter would be like, "Can I be over here? Your house is better than ours."
Oh my God.
We
No,
would
I
probably get
think
on
it's
your
so
nerves.
weird how like people don't like go over to people's houses anymore. So like,
Aw.
I don't care. I'm used to having like the door open and people in and out of my house. And
Well,
like
sure.
ever since the pandemic, things have been different. And I think it's weird. So
You're
I also
modern
bake a
day.
lot. So that's fun, you
You're
know.
modern day Martha Stewart. You're a boss, beautiful. Martha was a model, I think, back
She
in the day.
was in
Anyway,
her day.
she's
I'm
got
too
other
short for
issues, but I'm
modeling.
just saying, like, you know how to do something with everything. I think they're telling me, get after it, Sharon. And
We
yes,
do have
there's
a
so
lot to
much to
talk
get
about
after
today. Yeah.
today. Yeah. So why don't we begin almost where we left off? Trump says he hates his opponents while at Charlie Kirk's memorial. Listen.
In that private moment on his dying day, we find everything we need to know about who Charlie Kirk truly was. He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica.
Referencing Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, who had just said, "I forgive the accused killer, and I forgive him, and I will lead with love." And then the leader of the free world comes on and says, "Hate, hate, 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 and I don't wish you well." I remember having to correct my daughter on the playground for saying some nasty things like that, but she was only 3. That was President Donald Trump, of course, speaking at yesterday's Charlie Kirk Memorial. Trump claiming that he was not like Charlie and that Trump himself hates his opponents. Charlie Kirk's memorial took place yesterday in Arizona. That memorial service being held at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, 63,000 seat home of the Arizona Cardinals football team. It was packed. The event mixed political rhetoric with Christian evangelism. Thousands of people wearing red, white, and blue poured into that stadium. The lines, we can tell you, snaked several blocks before sunrise on Sunday. Among the thousands that gathered to the event, several MAGA leaders spoke, including the Vice President, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump Jr., Tucker Carlson, Stephen Miller, and a number of other cabinet members. They all showed up for Charlie Kirk. Trump's speech, however, was a mix of eulogy and campaign speech. Never quite seen that done as those who loved him were honoring the life and grieving the death. Never quite saw how that would be kind of intermingled with campaigning. Listen to some of the, well, it says here, highlights.
Just like Charlie and Erica made Turning Point hot, we are looking at a country that has the chance to attain a level like never before. Tariffs are making us rich again, richer than anybody ever thought was possible. And the only one challenging them are people that hate our country or foreign countries that are paying a price because they did the same thing to us for years. An answer to autism. How about that? Autism. Tomorrow we're going to be talking in the Oval Office in the White House about autism.
No matter the tune, he does the same dance, but at least he made Erica Kirk there smile. This speech was very different than the visible pain that Erica Kirk had during her appearance. Mrs. Kirk, who fought through tears, stated that she has forgiven the shooter. So compare her words to Trump's here.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man forgive him.
You could see the pain on Erica Kirk's face, the tears, almost as if she struggled to say it, but she said it as part of her faith, as she's represented it. Yes, I am reminded, and I thought about this as I was talking about how I've never seen a funeral or memorial service turn into a campaign like political event. But then I remember John McCain's funeral. I don't believe Trump was invited. Meghan McCain said a lot. His daughter, entitled, and that was widely seen as this political event, anti-Trump event. But this, well, just your reaction.
This was very it was very strange. I mean, first of all, first and foremost, maybe it is hard to watch Erica Kirk speak about the death of her husband and not feel for her, right? I don't think anyone is denying that that is a very painful thing for anyone to have endured, especially the way that it happened, the senselessness of how it happened. I don't know how anyone, let alone a wife, would be able to reconcile with that ever. It was big of her to forgive him. I think that's a really important step, not just in like the bigger story of the rhetoric of everything that's happening right now, but also for her own sake. So that said, I really don't understand how people can hear Trump say things like what he said about, wishing ill on his enemies and wanting them to do badly, basically, and hear that, and then also believe that the left is the side that is full of hate. And it's very, very tricky because we've existed in a state of bipolarism for so long, right? Let's say that Trump, he came up in 2015, he was elected in 2000, became president in 2000, elected in 2016, became president in 2017, right? So we've had Trump as a political figure in our country for over 10 years now, right? It's been a full 10 years. A lot of people watching this program right now and the other programs on TYT, they might not even remember being cognizant in the United States as, paying attention to American politics without Donald Trump being a notable figure in all of that. Not just notable, but a central figure to all of it, right? 10 years is a very long time. It is a chunk of someone's life. And that is something that we have collectively been engaged with as a country for so long. And it's hard because there wasn't this polarization prior to Donald Trump, but that was so long ago that I feel like people have forgotten. Even, during the Obama era, there was a lot of discontent, especially from Republicans. But even then, when he was running for his first term as president, I remember kind of bracing myself for racism and things like that to be a part of the conversation surrounding his election, but it really wasn't. And I remember because I was looking for it, I was waiting for it, and it never really came. It never really happened. And of course, at that time, he was running against John McCain, who we now know. I don't agree with a lot of his policies and a lot of things that he said, but he was a different kind of Republican than what we see today, to the point that Donald Trump has made John McCain almost the antithesis, like the image of the antithesis of his own political ideology and way of doing politics. So we've lived in the state of bipolarism for so long, and now the rhetoric is ramping up even more, left versus right. And a lot of times, especially for us as commentators, it's hard to not fall into those traps because it's a really easy way to delineate what you're trying to say, right? Like this side believes this side believes that. And we know that there's nuance within those large categorizations, but at the same time, this is like, giving you an overview for the sake of discussion, for the sake of conversation. What we're seeing now is that there is a lot more people who are understanding that it is not always left versus right. The media might still be structured that way. Our government, our political parties might still be structured that way. But a lot of people are starting to understand that there are elitists and corporations and things like that at the top. And then there's everyone else at the bottom who is just kind of dealing with all of it, right? Yeah. And trying to make sense of it and also trying to live a life amidst all of this political turmoil. So, people are looking at the economy and they're seeing that things are not getting better than they used to be, right? People on the left and right, that affects everybody. You can't go to the grocery store without paying up to 40% more for things that you were buying just a few months ago for a lot cheaper. So all of these things are, serving to help further divide us. But at the same time, I kind of am seeing more people from both sides of the aisle coming together and saying, you know what, this is bad for all of us, right?
Yes.
They keep trying to tell us that the left is celebrating political violence. I haven't seen it for myself, apart
You're
from like,
right.
yes, there are some people on social media who are not, who are saying things that I would advise against. But for the large part, especially amongst commentators and left wing media figures, they are not celebrating it. So I don't really know where they're getting it from, apart from just hearing about it from people on the right who are saying things like, oh, on the left, they're really celebrating this violence and they want more of it and blah, blah, blah. That's really not the case. And anybody who's paying attention should be able to see that. But on top of that, we saw the Trump attend this event for Charlie Kirk, and it's not unheard of for a president to attend an event like this. But I think the nature of the president's appearance was very, very unusual. He gave a big speech. The fact that he spoke is, again, not unusual. But I think most presidents in the past would have understood that they should keep it to Charlie Kirk and to the person that they're there to memorialize and to the victim and the families and like all that, right?
And
But
perhaps
Donald Trump,
remember.
yeah, like
Yeah.
he made it so political, right? He was talking about autism and vaccines, and he was talking about how we need to bring religion back into the country. And, freedom of religion and the separation of church and state be damned, like he was making all these political points. It really did feel, at least for his portion where he was speaking, it really did feel more like a political rally than anything. Like he soft launched him and
Mhm.
RFK Jr. about to come out with their
Look, he
autism theory. Yeah,
hijacked this
it
memorial
was
service.
unbelievable.
He hijacked it. And it's unbelievable and believable. Okay. I think you made some strong points that this is people my daughter's age. She remembers
Mhm.
Obama and First Lady Michelle, but after that, it's all Trump. That's how
Yeah,
young she is.
yeah.
Or, she's almost 14. So that tells you how long we've been immersed in this. You cannot escape it politically, pop culture. It's this strange phenomenon, and he hijacked it. What about the vice president? Well, JD Vance spoke. He called Charlie Kirk a martyr. Listen.
My friends, for Charlie, we must remember that he is a hero to the United States of America and he is a martyr for the Christian faith. May our Heavenly Father give us the courage to live as Charlie lived. That is what we must do for Charlie.
It's almost as if they've been trained in the Baptist church, maybe less rhythm, but the cadence, the promoting, not necessarily as one, if you're a believer, knows the Bible to be, but this is what they're doing. JD Vance went into confessional mode. I was telling somebody backstage that I always felt a little uncomfortable talking about my faith in public, he said. As much as I love the Lord and as much as it was an important part of my life, I have talked more about Jesus Christ in the past 2 weeks than I have my entire life, my entire time in public life. JD Vance. Some believe Vance's appearance signals a potential presidential run in 2028. So now we're launching a presidential run, if only subliminally, maybe more, at a memorial service. Vance's lead in hypothetical 2028 Republican primary polls is commanding, testament to his proximity to Trump. June 2025 Emerson College polling survey of 416 likely Republican primary voters found Vance at 46% support, dwarfing Secretary of State Marco Rubio, 12%, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, 9%, The Guardian, filling in the details. His white shirt, red tie, blue suit were all the same shade as Trump's. Maybe that's important, the little details. He delivered his remarks from a lectern with the presidential seal. It was a glimpse of a possible future featuring an occupant of the White House who could prove even more hard edge, pitiless, authoritarian than Trump himself. whoa, we're way ahead of the game here. But I think you and I can agree before we move on to this next one, Yaz, that you have to acknowledge that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, is cunning. He is, I'll say, ruthless in the way that he will do whatever it takes to get there. I think he's proven that. One minute he's calling Donald Trump Hitler, the next he is sworn allegiance. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it is very interesting to see the transformation of JD Vance from who he used to be compared to who he is today. Even his wife was like, like not a leftist, but definitely not a Trumpian person. She was a liberal, she was a Democrat. And I can't imagine what she's going through. Not that I feel sorry for her because she is still with him. She hasn't left him yet. So that's her choice. But, speaking of hijacking, isn't JD Vance doing Charlie Kirk's show right now? And then also, if I was a Christian, then I would be offended by the overt attempts of a corrupt government to weaponize the messaging of my religion to push their political agenda. They're not subtle about it. But then again, the fact that I would be offended by that is probably a big part of the reason as to why I'm not a religious person. I just want out of it. I don't like any of it, And this is our country now. And it'll be interesting to see going forward how messaging in the media landscape transforms. People are going to be looking for more independent media to get their news from. Not that that hasn't already been happening, but especially in light of what's been happening with Jimmy Kimmel, that's going to be, I think it will transform traditional mainstream media. But on top of that, we have the president and the vice president doing podcasts now. So this is a new America that we're in as of about a week or two ago.
Yeah, and while some people, I think a lot of people are seeking truth and independence in their media sources, boy, there's scores of other people who will not walk out, who will sit there and excuse some of those damning words. They really will.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you mentioned it, Donald Trump announced some big things, paraphrasing how he spoke of them. He found the answer to autism at a funeral. This is honoring the life of Charlie Kirk. Thousands watching, Trump chose quite possibly the worst and strangest place ever to make an announcement about autism. Watch.
And tomorrow we're going to have one of the biggest announcement, really medically, I think, in the history of our country. We're going to be doing it with Bobby and Oz and all of the professionals. I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking in the Oval Office in the White House.
So the announcement he's talking about doing with Bobby, RFK Jr., HHS secretary who swims, well, in sewage is what he did. And then there was the incident with the bear, the babysitter, this guy who's anti-vax and pretending that I'm not going to change anything, who's changed everything. And Dr. Oz, fresh off of his TV show and something about lying about apple juice, they're going to stand together. Yeah, he said there was arsenic or something. And there may be slight traces, but there was a scare tactic. Look it up, folks, if you don't remember. The expected announcement, the Trump administration is expected to announce that Tylenol use during pregnancy could contribute to the development of autism in children. That's according to Politico, Washington Post. President and his advisors are also expected to discuss a potential treatment for autism. The drug Leucovorin, sure I'm not pronouncing it correctly. The news organization reported this. The administration will discuss how autism happens so we won't let it happen anymore, and how to get at least somewhat better when you have it, Trump said. That got cheers. Kenvue, the company that owns Tylenol, said in a statement that, quote, "We believe independent, sound science clearly shows that taking acetaminophen does not cause autism. We strongly disagree with any suggestion otherwise." Yeah, they'll get the hammer in 3, 2, In an April report, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found that in 2022, 1 in 31 children were diagnosed with autism by age 8 in the United States, an increase from 1 in 36 children in 2020. USA Today helping us out with the reporting there. This is perhaps, I mean, there were some pretty bad things at the memorial service, yes, but this right here and the reporting around it is devastating.
Yeah.
Families with children who have been diagnosed with autism are understandably, in many cases, desperate and willing to hold on to just anything. And I know people personally who have exploited that, gotten a lot of money saying, there's a cure, this is the cause, all you have to do is this. It's a grift. And it's trading on their emotions, enormous love, and desperation on behalf of their children. This is pretty sick. And I think the makers of Tylenol will be silenced or they'll face probably a rebuke. That's my prediction. There's no reporting on that. But what say you?
Yeah. And, first of all, I had heard about, I know that there's like trace amounts of cyanide in apple seeds, but I had not heard about arsenic in apple juice. So that one was new for me. But yeah, all of this, it's so grifty. It is desperate. And of course, it blames women for autism because why wouldn't it? And the fact that he's talking about this at all at a memorial service for someone who he once called a friend, it's wildly inappropriate. It's very strange. And it just goes to show that anytime Donald Trump is talking, he has to make it about himself. He has to make it something beneficial for him, right? He has to make the most of it. Otherwise, why is he even showing up if it's not worth his time to do so? And, this whole thing with like blaming it on Tylenol, it's all based on very, very, very suspect research, a very, very, very suspect medical backer and things like that. And, it used to be a thing, by the way, in the scientific community that certain, even, in journalism, right? It had to be worth more before you present anything to the public, especially as fact. There have to be multiple sources saying something, right? You learn this in grade school, right? Whenever you're writing a paper, if you say something, you have to be able to back it up with at least 2 or 3 sources, right? This is like composition 101 or even before that, right? And then in the scientific community, you have to be able to replicate results of a test before you can say this is probably a thing. And then let's continue to test it further. Let's continue to look into it. And then now you have these doctors who are probably getting paid like so much money. I have no idea to back these things up and to put something forth on behalf of the government. And, we have people like RFK Jr. who's leading up, Health and Human Services. You have people like Dr. Oz who are in our government or who are, loud voices on the right wing, let's say. And these are people who have made careers off of grifting people, right? We have known Dr. Oz for a long time. We have known that he's been grifty for a very, very, very long time, way before he ever became any sort of a political figure. So I don't know why anything that these people have to say matters to literally anyone. But then on top of that, we have Donald Trump as our president. And he is literally a con man, right? Like he has conned people out of money. He has denied people money. He has grifted every single opportunity he has ever had a chance to, including the memorial service of his so-called friend. So I don't know why people are still falling for it. At this point, I want to be like, if you're still falling for it, that is your fault. But the rest of us have to live in a country with these people. So that's not fun for the rest of us.
I'm reminded of something that Cenk said probably more than once when I've been on with him that, well, Sharon, you can't expect everyone to be, these political and news junkies. They're going about their lives. Last time they probably saw Dr. Oz was on a program that a lot of people liked in the beginning. Oprah was the co-signer, remember? So that made you trust him. And they may still think, oh yeah, that guy, and not realize the rest. And at least back when the apple juice and arsenic issue, the controversy was raised, Dr. Oz was trading on science, although the FDA found that his testing limits were way higher than anything they had seen in their replicated testing. But never mind that at least was based on something. And it led to more guidelines, regulations, we'll say. But this, like you said, you're talking about science. They're talking about pivoting culture wars, giving people perhaps false hope, and if not false hope, um, overwhelming hope where there may only be a pea-sized amount. And listen, a little bit is good, and we've got to figure this out. 1 in 33 from 1 in 36 before, children diagnosed by the age of 8 with autism. That is, what is this and what's causing it? And it needs to be studied. I mean, nobody would deny that, but the rest, at Charlie Kirk's memorial service, it's just bonkers.
Yeah, and one last thing, Sharon, it does need to be studied. We do need to look into why we're having so many more cases of autism than what we had before. Also, it is a spectrum. So, all of that needs to be taken into consideration. But whenever you have somebody like RFK Jr. and the president of the United States coming out and saying, oh, it's probably Tylenol, all these women are just like popping Tylenol all day long. It stifles a lot of that research that could be happening, right? It says, oh, we don't need to study anymore because RFK Jr. said that it's Tylenol. And so I think that is a significant, much bigger danger to all of this. Yes. All of this rhetoric, it's not just about blaming women or blaming Tylenol. It's about stifling the actual knowledge, the actual truth of what is happening. And it's, going to be detrimental for generations of children in the future.
You're absolutely right. The autism community wants love and respect. It has enormous power and a big, huge voice. And now all of a sudden, out of the blue, Donald Trump has solved another one. Go figure. Let's talk about Representative Jasmine Crockett. She's a real one, and she's pretty strong in her convictions. This time she's not walking back, comparing Donald Trump to Hitler. This is what she said. I said what I said, okay? And oh yeah. Representative Jasmine Crockett compared Trump to Hitler on the Breakfast Club podcast. That was a few months ago. On CNN, she doubled down on the stance. Listen.
When we see the consolidation of power, when we see them trying to chill speech of jokesters, when we're seeing all of this, that is a playbook out of Hitler, and I won't deny it. Like, these are the facts. But one of the things that I've never done that the president has done consistently is called specifically for violence. He has said, oh, beat that one up. He has said those types of things.
So, unapologetic. We'll give you the context. She was on CNN State of the Union Sunday morning, and she was shown several clips by the co-host, Dana Bash, of her making inflammatory remarks, including calling President Donald Trump a, quote, wannabe Hitler. Bash pressed Crockett whether she had a responsibility as an elected official not to raise the temperature, but rather lower the temperature, especially when you consider conservative activist Charlie Kirk was just shot and killed for his political beliefs. That is the allegation, and it seems it's looking perhaps that way. So take a listen to when she called him the wannabe Hitler comment.
We've got to talk about like what it means when you're running for president or you're running for one of these higher offices and you go out there and you talk about beating people up. You go out there and you say things like, I could shoot somebody in the middle of the street in New York and I could still win. We got to talk about like that. That is next level. Mm-hmm. Me disagreeing with you, me calling you, a wannabe Hitler. All those things are like not necessarily saying go out and hurt somebody. But when you're literally telling people at rallies, yeah, beat them up. And that kind of stuff, like you are promoting like a culture of violence. So we need to talk about like what it looks like when you don't promote a culture of violence.
So the Texas congressman, again, standing her ground, declining to distance herself from past comments. Instead, she did double down. She said the way Trump has acted lately, including celebrating Jimmy Kimmel's suspension from ABC, make it fair to compare the USA to the Third Reich. Crockett continued her wordy diatribe by saying Trump, by inciting violence January 6, 2021, and his other actions, has shown he is an authoritarian. Congresswoman also said she has no time for political enemies, who she referred to as they, who deny the historical facts, which she said included American slavery. So what she's saying is to her, it's a simple issue of black and white, no pun intended, right? She's saying that these are the facts, and I'm only responding to them. She
Yeah.
also stated this, just like they don't want to talk about the fact that slavery was real in this country and that my people were enslaved and dragged and raped and abused, and they don't want to account for any of that. They don't believe in reparations. No, I think it's okay for me to understand history, communicate in a very clear way about why we should feel as if there is a concern. So, maybe on this shoulder, I had that conversation with Jenk right in my ear about this. We should not become this, right? It's not helping anything. It's just creating a bigger divide. And if everybody stops talking to each other and just does name calling, well, we're never going to get anywhere, which is why, in part, he justified sitting down like Charlie Kirk in that regard with anyone. He'll have a conversation, he'll use his words. And then over here on this shoulder, it's perhaps Crockett on her bad built butch body days. And she's telling me, we're not getting anywhere anyway. We're not getting anywhere because we've been demonized, and sometimes you got to fight fire with fire, particularly when someone's truth denies you your real truth, your reality, your existence.
Mhm.
And it just depends on the day or what I'm shouting at a cable news channel in the moment. If I'm with Jank or bad built butch body,
Mhm.
Representative Crockett. What do you think?
I think that's an excellent point that, probably doesn't get talked about as often as it should. The fact that, even for us, we talk about this stuff all day and we're in our feelings about it because it's hard not to be. We're going to feel one way one day, and then the next day we'll be like, I should have been, more forgiving, or I should have been more egalitarian, or whatever it is, right? But the fact of the matter is that these are issues that affect people in very, very real ways. And so people are going to have very visceral reactions to them. And sometimes those reactions, are maybe not us on our best day. But what we're seeing happen here is something that we're seeing a lot more lately, especially this month. You're no longer allowed to just repeat something that someone else has said, right? It's not necessarily just because it makes someone look bad, but because more so, I think that it contradicts the narrative that they, to use Jasmine Crockett's term, they are pushing on the public, right? So we're seeing a lot of revisionism that is happening very acutely lately. But this is a thing that we have seen a lot of, especially coming from Republicans, because they don't want to acknowledge certain things that have happened. I always thought it was funny how they demonized the term woke and kind of like took it over as their own. Because wokeism, right? Like that, all that meant, stay woke, was to open your eyes and see what's happening, and be aware of the world around you and be aware of the history and the implications and everything. It was about being educated. It was about being thinking for yourself and seeing what's in front of you and analyzing it and understanding it. And that was something that the Republicans decided to demonize and say that's a bad thing to do, right? Because whenever people look into a lot of these figures from history, people who have been celebrated throughout history without much question, whenever you do just look into the history a little bit, you realize these people are not as good as they were said to be, and a lot of the mythology around them is exactly that. It's myth. It's just not true. And it's kind of interesting to see that happening right now in real time with a character like Charlie Kirk. We all knew him just a few months ago or a few weeks ago as, this guy who had a show, he was a podcaster, and he was kind of, he was looked at in a certain way. I would not have said back then that he was as revered as a political figure, certainly not to the levels of MLK Jr., as what they're trying to say that was his story now, right? They're trying to elevate his status to be so much more than what I remember it being while he was alive. And it's interesting because like that narrative is being pushed onto the American people on both sides. If you say anything that is not that, then you are liable to be taken off the air. But it's also interesting because A lot of people just simply don't remember him that way. And then on the left, a lot of people were just posting his own quotes, and they were getting in trouble for doing so, even though sure, you can argue that there was context involved. Sure, you can argue that, this is what he was actually trying to say. But I think whenever you get into that territory, like you're doing too much, right? You're protesting a little bit too hard at that point. And that was the message that people were receiving from him, right?
Yeah.
The quotes is what people were hearing. The people who did not like him, the people who said that he was antagonistic to people like me, that's what they were hearing, is they were hearing that he was antagonistic towards entire groups of people while he was alive. And now he's being revered as like a hero of civil rights. And the revisionism it's jarring to watch happen in real time.
Yeah, listen, we'd be dishonest if we didn't say that, number one, Charlie Kirk, according to reports, had 1 million people watching that's a wildly successful podcast. It
Yeah,
is.
of course.
He had followers who perhaps did look at him, revered him in a way that you or I would have looked up to a Martin Luther King Jr., as you pointed out, much different in the way they spoke and the things that they espoused. That said, we would be dishonest if we didn't just tell the truth. Comedians, late night comedians, and I'm sure Jimmy Kimmel can be counted among them, and Saturday Night Live too, have less work for them, but it's true commentary and what we're dealing with today, have taken the full script of what was actually said by certain people, including the president. And there were your jokes. They didn't have to change a word. You said it. But for that, you are not allowed to deviate from this narrative that, as you mentioned, has been sanitized, twisted. Look, even the word great has been corrupted and expanded. Make America great again. Do you mean more racist?
We never got any clarification on that. And we asked when he first came out with that slogan, we said, what does that mean? And we never got any kind of clarification as to what great meant in his esteem and like what he was trying to get back to. We never learned that. And another important point that I think, going back to your point about what Cenk was saying, he had 1 million followers on his show, Charlie Kirk. 1 million people sounds like a lot, but in the greater scheme of like our country, it really is. It's not like, everybody around the world or even around this country knew what he was saying and intimately knew his words and his message to that extent. So you kind of have to like put it all into that greater context as far as who he was. Like the fact that the way he was killed certainly got a lot of eyes on this story. It was like just a horrific experience, like I personally didn't see it, thank God, but a lot of people did. And, so that got a lot of headlines on its own. But before that, he was just like, some guy with a show on YouTube for a lot of people, for people who maybe who had heard of him, but weren't actively watching and listening to his show. So I think that also is something to take into consideration.
Country divided. I mean, I'll admit, Turning Point USA, his face was on it. The widow, Erica Kirk, will continue it. And it is if you are in that orbit, and there are a lot of people who are, it's wildly successful for them. This is Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Sharon Reed, alongside the wonderful, the talented, the incredibly intelligent Yasmin Aliya Khan. Much more to come. Stay with us.
What contributions to the progressive cause are you most proud of? I mean, I don't have super high aspirations for a singular role that I can play in the movement or anything. I try to present myself as what I think that I am, which is a progressive man who is driven by I think, well-interrogated and well-organized system of values that I try to stay consistent on, and I demonstrate that that's the sort of life that a person can lead and be successful and be happy and all of that. And that should not need to be done, but there are so many people on the right that are trying to push men in the opposite direction that I want to be able to do that. Along the way, if I can get people to care about some topics that they wouldn't necessarily care about, or that for some men they might think that's not a topic that they should be focused on, that's definitely something that I relish doing. And along the way, I mean, we've been able to introduce people to a lot of candidates. That's been a big part of what we've done. Not all of them necessarily got in office. Probably most of them did not. And a lot of them you might not even remember their names. But it was great to be able to provide people the platform where they had the chance of, making a difference. Obviously AOC and all that, but there's been a lot of great people along the way.
In the bonus episode for the members, we do some inside baseball. We're gonna look at John's desk. Nice little spaceship here. Nerd. But it is kind of look cool. Who has Legos? Oh no. He's taken apart a keyboard. Who has a mouse pad that's this big? He's got a dog with a nose that you can hang something on. You know what this desk screams to me? Nerd. And that's how we like him. We love Johnny Pie. He's got his own personality like everybody does at TYT. Come meet us all in the bonus episodes. TYT.com/team.
David Sorrell, Nina Turner. Adam Green drop by.
Charlemagne.
Congressman, great to have you. It's great to be with you, Charlie.
Your show is a great thing. You're informing people. A lot of the shows that I live on, my CNN, my MSNBC, and even Fox, and any of the other shows, NPR, they are so quick to decide that they know what this building means today.
The one thing that I hate that politicians do, they talk about the people they should be talking to.
Do they have any idea that they're the establishment and that they're hated, or do they not realize that at all?
People are so deeply in their little universe. I think it's very easy to not really question what you're doing.
Voters have a right to ask questions of any nominee, whether they're independent, Republican, or Democrat.
The system is duopoly that suppresses competition. How is it the year 2024 and we're still like, maybe they'll talk about paid medical? Like how is that like at one level it's like, good, what we're talking about it now. You're like, it's 2024.
And that's always been the critique, that your critique of us is, well, you guys give good speeches, you put out good tweets, but you're not wielding actual power. Now we're starting to.
My favorite news platform by far. It's not even close.
It's about a country and a principle, and that's what you and I both work to achieve. And I'm so glad that at least half the battle has now been won.
If you want to go really hear what's going on, honestly, you should tune into the Young Turks.
Thanks for doing such a great job. Please keep it up. Hang tough.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Oh, I like making you happy.
I didn't know about that.
This is a happy Anna Kasparian. You're welcome, YouTube.
Join the Dragon Squad by becoming a YouTube channel member. Click the join button below or sign up on tyt.com/join to get access to fun emojis, a member-only chat, exclusive shop TYT designs, ad-free watching, and so many other amazing perks. Plus, you get bragging rights for being part of the coolest community on the internet and help us drive real positive change in the world. The Dragon Squad awaits, so join today.
Welcome back to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Sharon Reed, alongside our special guest co-host, Yasmin Aliya Khan. You see her work all the time here on TYT, other places. Happy to be here with you, Yas. Look, let's get to some of your comments, and we'll start with TYT members, because you guys, I think, this is a family, it's your show too. Keep us grounded. And you say things that I haven't thought of, but then I'm like, yeah, that part. Winter Scoop. I am an atheist, and Erica made me cry when she forgave him. Well said. Dragons don't know I'm not real bacon says, you hate your opponent, as Trump said. What about your supporters? Doesn't seem like you want the best for them either. It's a fair point. Wake up. Wake up. Are you better off today than you were? How's the rest go? Guam will capsize Dragon. She forgives him, but not us? Okay. Kara says, let me guess, the pharmaceutical company that owns Tylenol will agree to fund Trump's ballroom or buy some crypto, and they'll suddenly pivot to some other cause. Well, I think that's fair. And I'll get to more of your comments, including YouTube and Twitch in the next round. But I think it's fair. We've seen it time and time again, right? Wasn't he sitting with Elon Musk at Charlie Kirk's memorial? Now they're saying Charlie brought them back together. Donald Trump, when asked about it, said, no, I wouldn't go that far. Basically paraphrasing, that's what he said. Look, it's whatever America you choose. It's supposed to be ours, even though it seems like it's been stolen. And it's heading even more in that direction. It wasn't perfect before, but now seems like anything goes. The lies, the outbursts, the racism, the sexism, assaults, financial undoing and corruption. Who is it that they're accusing of taking a bag of money, $50,000? Oh yeah, that guy who's supposedly rounding up the worst of the worst. Yeah. So it's no surprise that this segment of our population is growing, multiplying, teaching others their lies, their rhetoric. And in this case that I think you'll see, it's putting someone's life in danger because you don't care. Could care less. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. Get the f*** out of here. Wood, really, get the f***. Just walk around, the cops are coming right now. I'll tell them you tried to kill me. They'll take you downtown. How you like that?
I mean, I don't think they gonna believe you. I just got you on camera saying it.
They'll have to look at it. Yeah, so they'll take you downtown. That's fine. Is it fine? I wouldn't like it. They're not gonna take me downtown.
Yeah, I know. I'm too scared. I ain't scared of you. That's why you tripping on your steps, goofy.
Well, he's a goofball, but this is no laughing matter. Racist says he called the cops and lied about a black man trying to kill him. And there we heard the black man in question saying, but I have it recorded, right? That wouldn't happen. And in this case, this Karen, who the truth is not in him, was actually telling the truth when he said that this is basically, they're going to believe me. They might not even look at the footage. I mean, hell, there's people who believe a knee on the neck of George Floyd isn't what killed him for minute after minute after minute. Say, I can't. Right? So I think he's right. You see the screen grab, all I asked was if Bro could open the doors so I could use the bathroom. You can't make this up. We don't have to make it up because it's happening every day. And when this male Karen, a white man with a Michigan hat, I don't care for Ohio State. That's the only redeeming quality I see about this male Karen, right? The Michigan hat. By the way, Michigan, you should not let him in the stadium, okay? He's unwell and dangerous. Yeah. But other than that, he can go sit down somewhere. I see this as a true threat to a man's life because we've actually seen it happen time and time again. I don't think I'm upping the ante or giving too much rhetoric on this. It has happened, and that's why this male Karen said it, because he knows that there's a chance this could happen with just his word.
Yeah. And, for all the times that we'll say things like, the words matter and like, you shouldn't say these things and these words are threatening. And they just deny it, like white privilege one isn't a thing. Like I've heard that, they've said that to me in my real life, white privilege is not a thing. And I'm like, okay, because you can't argue with them because, they've already decided, despite all the evidence, they're still going to look at that and say, no, that's not a thing. But on some level, they do get it because they weaponize it, and this is not the first Karen that we've covered on this show to deliberately just straightforward, outright weaponize something like white privilege, saying, I'm going to say as a white person that you threaten me and they'll believe me because I'm a white person. And who knows what's going to happen to you because of it. And the thing is, we know what often happens because we see a lot of that also that gets recorded, and it is always horrifying. Even if they take him downtown, right? Let's just say he goes downtown and nothing happens. It's still something that is incredibly disruptive to somebody's life who did nothing wrong, right? And even that is an injustice to some degree. So yeah, like they get it, they know, and everyone else knows, but they're the ones who just won't admit it. So they're, it sounds kind of dumb.
Practice it every day and they won't admit it. And you're right. Even if this gentleman doesn't get a rough ride like Freddie Gray got, snapping his neck, he could still be brought downtown or talked to in a way, stopped,
get something on his record, maybe.
Right. Lets people know that, boy, I'm putting you in your place again. Just like the origins of policing was dedicated to. Pretty sick. And until we make that a crime, right? Because it's a threat. It's not about free speech. That's a threat. Nothing's going to change. And we won't ever make it a crime because we would be criminalizing white privilege. And we can't have that, not in America. All right, let's move on to this. There's price increases and then there's, what are we doing here? Okay, just like the tariffs, incremental 5%, 10%, a few dollars. Nope. Go big or go home. Trump's $100,000 visa fee will cause major confusion and chaos. I would say as intended because everything that seems to go on, every announcement sends us into this so dizzy. We're just dizzy every day. There's multiple announcements. Trump signed an executive action on Friday to impose a $100,000 application fee for H-1B visas. This is an effort to curb what his administration says is overuse of the program. Sparked major confusion, chaos too, for visa holders, especially amongst recent travelers. Watch this.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the captain speaking. Due to the current circumstances, obviously, that are unprecedented for us here at Emirates, we are aware that a number of passengers do not wish to travel with us, and that's perfectly fine. All we ask is that if you wish to offload yourself.
Okay, why are you out of your seat? The plane needs to take off. Well, we'll tell you. They can't quickly stow luggage and stay in their seats, seatbelts fastened, waiting for the announcement about what to do in the event of emergency, because the emergency is now. The captain right there talking to people who may or may not be hit with money, some kind of charge, $100,000, money they don't have. Many were quick to disembark the Emirates flight from San Francisco, unsure if they'd be able to return to the United States without paying 100,000 G's. The White House has now offered clarification surrounding the details of the action and when the policy will go into place. You would think they would do that once the order was signed, although we had conflicting information even from members of the cabinet. We need great workers, and this pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen, Trump said from the Oval Office, where officials detailed how the measure would incentivize companies to employ American workers while still providing a pathway to hire highly skilled foreign workers in specialized fields. Proclamation will restrict entry under the program unless accompanied by the payment. The Act states entry is restricted except for those aliens whose petitions are accompanied or supplemented by a payment of $100,000. This restriction shall expire absent extension 12 months after the effective date of this proclamation, which shall be 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, September 21. I think it should be, 2025. Okay, so that's what Mr. Trump wants. He says it has an intended purpose. H-1B visa is a work visa that's valid for 3 years. It can be renewed for another 3 years. Economists have argued the program allows U.S. companies to maintain competitiveness, grow their business, creating more jobs in the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told reporters on a call Friday evening that the administration came to the fee of $100,000 per year, plus vetting costs, after talking with companies. He noted that the payment structure is still under discussion with the Department of Homeland Security in terms of whether we're going to charge the $300,000 upfront or $100,000 a year for the 3 years. Tech is the most common job sector. 65,000 H-1B visas are granted annually. Another 20,000 reserved just for people who hold advanced degrees from U.S. higher education institutions. Demand for the visa often exceeds the supply, triggering a lottery system. Citizens of India make up the largest share of H-1B visa holders. Workers from India receive more than 70% of the 85,000 issued each year. Amazon sponsors the most H-1B visas, almost twice as much as any other corporation. One man who had been traveling back to India documented his chaotic and expensive ordeal. Rohan Mehta, software professional, has lived in the US with his family for 11 years, but had traveled to Nagpur beginning of the month to see relatives commemorating his father's death. But on 20 September, he said he feared he would not be able to return to his home if he did not get back before the deadline. He spent over $8,000 in 8 hours booking and rebooking return flights to the US. I booked multiple options because most were cutting it very close, he said, just after he had boarded a Virgin Atlantic flight from Mumbai to JFK International Airport. Even if there was a slight delay, I'd have missed the deadline. In its clarification, the White House said the new fee, which is more than 60 times the amount currently charged, 60 times, would not be enforced until the next round of visa applications was approved. Well, Rohan Mehta is out $8,000, so thank you for the clarification. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Too late. He'd already spent that money. Rohan Mehta described the last few days as traumatic, adding he was glad his wife and daughter had not come to India with him on this trip. I'm regretting the choices I've made in life. I gave the prime of my youth to working for this country, the United States. And now I feel like I'm not wanted. Well, some might understand how you feel that way, Mr. Mehta. Critics of the H-1B program, including many U.S. technology workers, argue that it allows firms to suppress wages, sideline Americans who could do the jobs. Supporters, including Tesla, opens New Tab CEO and former Trump ally Elon Musk, say it brings in highly skilled workers essential to filling talent gaps and keeping firms competitive. Musk himself, a naturalized U.S. citizen born in South Africa, has held an H-1B visa. So, guess he has every interest in making sure that, well, that continues. Look, we can argue, I guess, yes, about how to make the program more fair, more, if you believe it needs to be more exclusive. Mm-hmm. But there is, to me, no excuse for the confusion, the 60 times the usual price tag, just sheer chaos. And you're telling me, as his cabinet member proclaimed, they had these discussions. And yet these companies who they said were the ones they had the discussions with were many of them making the calls and clarifying and frantically sending emails to try to figure out, well, what do we do here? What's the clarification? There's just no excuse for living in limbo like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this administration has a tendency to just see things very black and white. Like if Trump says something is not good, he just wants to burn it all down, get rid of it. So the idea, what you were alluding to, of reforming something that, maybe is not perfect, could use a little tweaking, could be updated to reflect what's going on today as opposed to when it was enacted. That is not a thing that this administration or this president is interested or able to do. We saw what happened with the Iran nuclear deal. He walked in, he said, this is a bad deal. He just got rid of it, right? He didn't fix it and make it better. He just got rid of it, largely probably because it was Obama's deal. Also, he doesn't like NATO. Then there was also public education, for example. They say public education is bad, so we'll just get rid of it. We're not going to put the necessary funds into it to help actually make it better. He said Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, is terrible. I'm going to get rid of it once I'm president. What is he going to replace it with? I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out later. So that's just a thing that they do. But also, this is what you get when you put not just incompetent people, but also disingenuous people in positions of power. The chaos is a big part of the goal. They want people to be confused and to feel as though their lives are disrupted. They want people to feel uncomfortable, because they want people to feel the power of the government in all aspects of their life as they're just trying to live. And again, I just want to say, before all of this was happening, people, for the most part, were able to just live their lives without constantly having to think about the government all the time, right? Even we were able to travel without having to think directly about the government and what they were doing, but they also want to make it so that all of these changes are very hard for anybody to keep track of or to fight against. Even if people want to be compliant with something like this, who just has an extra $100,000 that they can just whip out and say, okay, now I'm compliant? They are flooding the zone, which is something that they actually said they were going to do. And all of this falls in line with their anti-immigrant rhetoric. But something that is not in line with all of that rhetoric is the fact that the US is losing money because of all this anti-immigrant rhetoric, and also the ICE raids and the takeover of American cities that have stemmed directly from that rhetoric. But tourists are not interested in coming here as much anymore. So the United States, the tourism industry, the hospitality industries, they're going to lose a lot of money if they haven't already because of all of this. We're hosting the World Cup next year. People do not want to come. And our government, I think it was actually JD Vance, said that people are welcome to come for the World Cup, but if you don't leave right after, then you're going to have to answer to Kristi Noem. So threatening your tourists is not a great way to encourage tourism. But as far as this particular visa goes, this is in large part why the US is able and has been able to be competitive around the world in several major industries. So Elon Musk, he famously spoke out against Donald Trump's interest in getting rid of the visa. I heard now that he's kind of like come back around, or he's trying to be a little bit more on Trump's side with this. But either way, I mean, he was kind of right the first time, right? He was saying, we need to be able to bring these people in, and especially because the American universities are not what they used to be, and they are not giving us the best people as far as maths and sciences and engineering and things like that, compared to what is going on in these international communities and colleges.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And if these kinds of issues were just looked at based on, ironically, what would make or keep America great, strong, smart, whatever, this is a no-brainer. It wouldn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. Then you would just be debating, well, how do we go about it? Nothing in here is helping to make America better. Duh. But hey, it's the age of Trump, and America, look at your life. This is Indisputable. I'm Sharon Reed alongside Yasmin Aliya Khan. Dr. Richie has the day off. We're minding the store for him. A lot more to come, including your comments.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
People who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
Welcome back to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Doc is not here today, but never fear, we're doing our best to kind of hold it down. And I promise more of your comments. Let's start with YouTube members. We appreciate you very much, Bernie the Kiwi Dragon. Thank you. Any scientist worth their salt will tell you the dose makes the poison. Any substance can harm beyond a certain amount. Simply saying X causes Y is completely unscientific, which means it is perfect for RFK Jr. And Dr. Oz has been to medical school, but apparently he's going to go along with this. Kimmy Koo says, what God are these people serving? What Bible are they reading? I purposely used a small g because they are certainly not serving the Almighty God. Squirrel Dragon, I hate my opponents and don't want the best for them. Such a nice guy. Nope. Stating the obvious. Mark Onyig Baco, apologize for the mispronunciation, I'm sure. Well, it's a short one, just 4 words. Behind, bulletproof glass. So the point is Trump standing, I mean, there was lots of security there for good reason. And he's the president. But you can say all this nasty stuff when you have protection. Although we have seen at least one instance of the president being targeted by a sniper's bullet and hit. So there you have it. We'll get to more of your comments. Let's give you this one though. There is a lawsuit. It's out of New York. The Honda staff harasses a Black woman at work with racial attacks. So this has happened in other car companies that we've reported on, but this time insert Honda. According to a recently filed federal lawsuit, New York Honda staff bombarded a Black woman with racial slurs. They hung a monkey at work. They drove her out of her job. I thought the newsroom was crazy. Why do all Black people call each other N? This is the jarring question Christina Cahill says she faced from a white coworker at Rensselaer Honda in Troy, New York. 2 years ago, this happened. At that point, she'd been in her position as a service advisor at the dealership for 6 months. Thomas Sincora, Aaron Mopert, and Rory Guilfoyle are among the coworkers Christina Cahill is accusing in her racial discrimination lawsuit. Cahill says she had high hopes for building a long career at Honda when she took the job with a modest $36,400 base salary in November 2022. But she soon realized the work environment at the dealership was rife with racial bias and discrimination. Our friends at Atlanta Black Star with the reporting. Car dealers customer base included many brown-skinned people of Middle Eastern descent, company complaint says. Cahill often overheard other service advisors, the staff who interfaced between customers and car technicians, disparaging them with comments such as, "Oh no, here comes another sand N. And I wish they wouldn't come here." Wow. Several white members of the services staff would leave the service area when non-white customers approached to avoid servicing them, or treated them with less respect than white customers, Cahill claims, all under the watchful eye of Supervisor Blake. Is his last name Race? Yes, it is. Who witnessed but never addressed this discriminatory conduct. By May, when Mopert allegedly asked her why all Black people call each other N, Cahill says she was exasperated. She went to the office of Service Manager Tom Sincora, where Human Resources Manager Rory Guilfoyle was also present. She told both men, who are white, about her colleague's open use of the N-word, which she found offensive. Sincora promised her he would speak to Mopert about his inappropriate racist comments, but never did, the lawsuit says. Look, the comment was inappropriate, but racist is enough. That's piggery, foolishness. When she parked the customer's car and returned to the service shop, she heard Mopert say, "If you're going to act like that, you can pull your own effing cars around." "Who are you talking to?" she asked. "Your Black ass," he allegedly replied, igniting a verbal altercation between the two in the mechanic's shop, witnessed by several technicians. Let's fast forward a month later. Still distraught by the overt racist environment and also upset about unfair scheduling practices that she says gave her fewer hours and less lucrative service assignments than her white coworkers, Cahill told her manager she was resigning. September 2023, Cahill noticed a stuffed monkey hanging from a lighting fixture in the service area, complaint says. Over the next few months, the monkey was moved around the shop, landing on a tire rack, a desk, and dangling from other light fixtures. No one took responsibility for bringing it, she says, but managers were aware of the monkey's presence. And she says she complained to management that she found it offensive multiple times. No one removed it. They told her to take the day off. If you're so offended by the N-word and a stuffed monkey, take the day off. So she went home. Once there, she texted another coworker that Harrison's racist comment and Guilfoyle's failure to address her complaints, and then diverting the conversation to a discussion of Black sitcoms, was the last straw. She was done. Rensselaer Honda constructively discharged Cahill that day, the lawsuit argues, as no reasonable person would have agreed to stay employed in such a hostile environment. Cahill accuses the dealership of racial discrimination in violation of federal and New York state civil rights laws. She's seeking a jury trial to determine compensatory damages for lost wages and benefits, mental, emotional, physical suffering, distress, and injury to her reputation. She also seeks punitive damages. So if even one of these incidents went on, yes, this place needs an overhaul and it needs to be smacked by New York law, federal law, and a jury. It needs to be smacked big time. Mm-hmm. I don't know why you would continue to employ managers and workers who allegedly behave in this manner, exposing yourself to great risk, civil risk, monetary damages, unless this is how you get down. What do you think?
Yeah, and none of it makes any sense because, like, even just from a purely business standpoint, you're losing money to the dealership because, you know, you have your racist employees who won't serve people who are Black or brown and who are treating their clientele poorly. So just from a purely business standpoint, none of this makes any sense. But, one part of the story that stood out to me, apart from, all the obvious things that would stand out about the story, was when she said that she had high hopes for building a long career at Honda. And I don't like that feels so sad, because like how we all know how hard the job market is today. We know that our parents were able to, get these jobs in the 70s or 80s, and then they're still at those jobs today with the same company, and they're reaping all these benefits. Whereas a lot of younger people, especially, even Gen X, millennials, and now Gen Z, we're looking for that kind of stability in our lives, and we cannot find it. So this woman gets a job, which also, by the way, is incredibly difficult to do these days. And so she finally gets a job that has a decent base salary, but I'm assuming she gets a significant commission off of sales, or however. I don't know exactly what her position was there, but I'm assuming if that was the base salary, that there's more somewhere else. But she got this, and I'm assuming whenever you get a new job, you kind of build your life around that. And now, because of all of this, I almost said a bad word that I'm not supposed to say, but because of everything going on here, she wasn't able to do that, right? This has disrupted her entire life, apart from all of like the emotional and psychological trauma that has been inflicted upon her, not just from the overt racism that was shown to her, but everything that they were saying on the side. Like that whole environment is just not conducive for anyone's mental health. And not just that, but I would argue that she was even in a physically threatening space, being in that building with those very, very racist men who were not hesitant to say that they don't like certain groups of people, and that's a group of people that she was a part of. So also telling her to take the day off because she was offended by something that was obviously meant to offend her. Again, if this is a commission-based job, that is costing her money. She shouldn't have to lose money because some other people are racist and don't want her there. And this all feels very 1950s. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, except it's never really stopped for some people. And you raise a good point about building your life around a job. So in America, before the middle class was completely destroyed, these are good jobs.
Yes.
These help you buy homes. You mentioned parents and grandparents who stayed in the same jobs and earned a decent wage and were able to put their money together and better things for the next generation. And you're cheating, in this case, and in many cases, Black and brown Americans out of the same hopes and dreams. It's pretty sick. And one of the most compelling things and reasons why, if all of this or some of it's true, I as a juror would put the hammer down on this Honda dealership, is because you might be able to argue rogue employee, he's out of control. But the fact that, and I bet you he'd admit this, immediately after being spoken to by a manager, he comes back and says, park your own cars, and calls her a black ass. Kind of says it all about that talk and what is and is not tolerated here. It's more than uncomfortable. It's threatening. It's emotionally jarring. It's trauma filled. And I hope they get smacked. I hope they get smacked big time. I'm talking about monetarily, of course. Ted Cruz. Every time his name comes up, anyway. This time, the senator's urging Donald Trump to support older retirement age for pilots. What's behind this? Well, international rules prohibit commercial airline pilots older than 65 from flying international flights. The U.S. applies the same rule domestically. Ted Cruz, though, is now urging Donald Trump to support efforts by an airline trade group to raise the mandatory pilot retirement age to 67, despite opposition from a pilots association. The group cites possible travel risks. Give you more on this one. There's Senator Cruz. In a letter first reported by Reuters on Sunday, Cruz asked Trump to support efforts, the upcoming opening of a United Nations aviation meeting in Montreal. America should lead on the international stage in support of raising or even abolishing the pilot retirement age, said Cruz, who leads the Senate panel overseeing aviation issues. He added current policy is forcing thousands of highly qualified and experienced pilots into early retirement every year. 2024, Congress rejected a push to raise the mandatory airline pilot retirement age to 67 from 65. Lawmakers rejected the bid to hike the retirement age after some cited a statement from the FAA, which had called for a scientific and safety analysis before making a decision. International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, will consider an airline trade group's proposal to raise pilots' retirement age globally to 67 when delegates gather for its triennial assembly. That starts on Tuesday. Now, the president of the Airline Pilots Association, Jason Ambrosi, said the group opposes changes to pilot retirement age and has cited studies that have found greater health risks and a decline in cognitive skills with an increase in age. The United States is the global leader in aviation safety, and we should resist any attempts to arbitrarily make changes to the regulatory framework that has helped us achieve this record. That's why Congress rejected making a change to the pilot retirement age just last year, the group said in a statement. Why could they be pushing for this now? Aviation experts are warning that the U.S. airline industry is going to be hit by a tsunami of pilot retirements. Wednesday, the CEO of the Regional Airline Association, Faye Malarkey Black, told the U.S. Transportation and Infrastructure Committee that over the next 15 years, nearly 50% of the commercial airline workforce will be forced to retire because they will reach the age of 65. There are 70% more pilots between the ages of 43 and 64 than those between 21 and 42, Black said, reflective of the high cost of flight education and training. The under 30 years of age cohort of pilots is the smallest at about 8% of total pilots, she added. As a result, 2,225 pilots must retire this year. And required retirements will peak in 2029 at 3,750, when pilots who are now 58 will turn 65. So look, this is a huge problem, right? More and more Americans, business, they're flying. And you want that sweet spot, right? These pilots who have a certain number of hours, but are young enough. Perhaps an argument could be made, yes, that why go with a blanket number or go with this threshold, right? Here's your limit. But perhaps when you get to this age, you have to be tested every year because so many lives are at stake. But never mind that. To me, the biggest issue here is we're always trying to put a Band-Aid on something. We talk about the cost of becoming a pilot, and this is why I can tie economic disparity and racism to everything. It's caused all our problems. You got traffic on the highway, and you're wondering, now, when they decided to build this Georgia highway, why didn't they make it, well, you could blame white flight and people saying, I don't want these people in my neighborhood, and I don't want them to be able to take the MARTA public transportation and come out here and rob me. Everything seems to roll into one. And maybe you're saying, well, that's taking it too far, but I don't think it is. They need to solve this problem by recruiting, paying, enabling people to pursue their dreams in aviation so that the rest of us can fly safely. What say you?
Well, first of all, Sharon, be careful, because I heard that intersectionality is woke and people don't like that. So also I was laughing at your very visceral reaction to Ted Cruz, but he is my senator. So whatever you're feeling, I feel it so much more. And then also there's like shame associated with that, but also I didn't vote for him. So I can take solace there. But great. This is just what we need. We just need older and more disgruntled airline pilots, But it's like, it's as you said, right? This is what we mean when we talk about Band-Aid solutions. And this is also sort of what I was alluding to in an earlier story when I was saying that, they just look at something and they just burn it all down instead of actually trying to find a solution like the one that you suggested. Obviously they would have to look into the feasibility of things like that. But like it's like they didn't even try. Have you even tried anything besides just like forcing people to stay in a job longer than they were planning to do so? And this is especially, these are older people who would be affected by this, people who I'm sure already have retirement plans. And so again, like we were talking in an earlier story, this is infringing on people's right to just or ability even to just plan their own lives and just to make plans for themselves and for their families and to go forward and execute those plans. And I understand that plans don't always work out the way we wanted them to, but you would hope that at least the institutions that govern our lives would help to facilitate some kind of autonomy over our own lives, right? We're an individualistic nation after all, aren't we? We should want people to be able to choose to live their lives the way they want to. But also, do we need to push the retirement age up, or do we need to talk about why we don't have a bench ready to take over whenever that turnover inevitably occurs? It's not like we didn't see this problem coming years ago when we said, oh, look, all of these pilots are this same age, and at some point this is going to be a problem. I think you did mention it also. Let's look into building some kind of infrastructure that helps people to pursue maybe their dreams of becoming an airline pilot and to help make that more of a cost-effective path for people to pursue. A lot of people, Americans especially, do not pursue higher education because it is so expensive. It is exclusionary, and then at the end of it, you might not get paid as much as you were promised, or you're not going to get paid as much as even your education costs to get you there. So it's not feasible for a lot of people. Those are the systems that we actually need to be investigating. But of course, those are much bigger problems to solve, and they will take a lot longer to solve. And they're not as soundbitey whenever you're trying to make a case on the floor of Congress or on Fox News or on X or wherever, So we don't get a lot of those long-term, deep-rooted solutions proposed because they are boring, and because they often come with 100-page documents as to how the plan is going to be implemented. And they're going to cost money, and we're not going to see the results of those investments for years to come, maybe not even for generations to come. And so those politically are a lot harder to sell whenever you're working in 2 or 4 year cycles. So something like this is just an easy thing that Ted Cruz gets to say that he did for the American people, I guess. As I said, we're talking about flying airplanes here. We want people to be in tip-top shape. And I'm not saying that you can't be older and be in tip-top shape, but as he suggested, maybe we could just test them regularly, the same way we test elderly people who have driver's licenses, things like that. There are a lot of common sense solutions that I feel like they just did not pursue.
No, they didn't. And by the way, it's not helping by saying that if I have a black pilot, I'm going to get off the plane, as some have suggested. Absolutely. We don't need to, we're on the same wavelength.
You said it, I thought it, but you said it, yeah.
I know, and there's people at home thinking it too.
We're all thinking it.
Yeah, but we want our pilots to be safe, prepared, ready, make a decent wage.
Yeah.
Ready to carry Ted Cruz to a vacation spot when Texas is in crisis and needs their senators stay behind.
There could even be a way to funnel our military pilots whenever they're done with the military, put them into the aviation retail space, the commercial space, not retail, things like that. There are pipelines that can be utilized.
You're trying to make too much sense. I want you to stop, okay? We're going to keep doing things the way we've been doing them, and just on the back end, throw a Band-Aid on it. That's how we're going to do things here.
Ted Cruz.
That's right. You're senator. And I do feel for you because we love you. Yes. Tell people where they can find your great work.
Yeah, so you can find me on Rebel HQ on the YouTube channel there. I do videos usually 4 times a week. I've had a slow month of September because I was sick for about a week and then I went out of town, but I'm better now. So we're going back on schedule. And also I'm going to be hosting, I believe, the 2nd hour of the main show this Friday. So tune in for that. And you can follow me on social media at YazK, YAZZZZZK.
I love it. Follow her and we'll continue to look at your great work. Love being on with you. Can't wait. All right. I can't wait till we're on together again. This is Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Thank you, Doc. And thank you, all of you for watching, participating. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of your comments next time, and they'll be posted for you all. We hope you'll join us again.